I have a very famous story, but I don't see us ever having a movie to really cover it.
Oh, okay.
So I decided I'm going to tell the epic tale of the fall of the Western Empire and Attila.
Attila?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we're in the mid 5th century AD.
Okay.
Just to give kind of set the stage.
The Huns.
The Huns,
Yeah.
yes. The
Those
Roman
wild-
Empire
Wildcats.
is kind of been split in two. We have the Eastern Empire and the Western Empire. There's two capitals, Constantinople in the east.
Istanbul was Constantinople.
It was, yes.
It always is Constantinople.
In the west, the capital has been moved to Ravenna.
Oh, it's not.
It's not Rome, and it's not Milan, which it had been prior.
Ravenna.
Yes, Ravenna is like a swampy fortress city
Okay.
that they've moved the government to because it can be defended
Yeah.
more easily than Rome itself. For about 50 years at this point, the Huns have come out of the east, and they are very scary. By all Roman accounts, they're like grotesque. And
Where are the Huns like base? Like where are they from?
so they come out of the eastern steppe lands.
The internet.
The internet.
The Hun.
That's Brian's porn site.
I used to go on that. Yeah. Way back in the day.
A lot of viruses.
Yeah, I was like pre-Pornhub. It was like pictures loading slowly. Yeah.
They come out of the eastern Eurasian steppe.
But like where would their
And
base be today?
I'm gonna
Like
tell you.
Kazakhstan.
they start pushing the local tribes into the Roman territory. There's a gigantic refugee crisis. They eventually will set up shop in what is today Hungary.
So they're Hungarians.
Hungary is named after the
Hun.
I didn't know that.
the Hungarian plain.
So they're white dudes?
They are Asiatics. For a long time, like when people would read Roman accounts of the Huns, they'd think the Romans are just like have never seen Asians before. And they're terrified of Asian features.
I thought they were Asian.
They are. But archaeological evidence in more recent years has actually found out that they did shit with like baby skulls. So like when they're young, when the Huns were like babies, they would wrap their skull so that it would become elongated, almost like aliens or some shit.
Yeah, baby skulls are very malleable.
Right.
And if like, so it's actually, so like when you have a baby, if you put, so let's say you lay a baby flat on like this wood every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
The back of the head
will
becomes
shape,
flat. So it's a thing where they sell these special helmets that you could put on your baby
Yeah.
to mold their head to like
A good
a
shape.
proper shape.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, the Romans were terrified of these people, but like I said, it created this horrible refugee crisis where you had all these Germanic tribes now invading the empire at the same time.
Okay.
The Goths will have a giant encounter at Adrianople, crossing the Danube frontier. The Franks will move into Gaul, and the all different tribes going.
All people splitting up going after.
The Vandals eventually will end up carving North. They'll go so far as to carve North Africa out of.
Well, they're
empire.
Vandals. Of
They're
course, they're going to leave their
vandalizing.
mark.
That's
and
That's
Vandalizing
where the name
everything,
comes from,
yeah.
because they will eventually sack Rome and vandalize.
They do graffiti.
Yes.
Just dicks everywhere.
There's a punk band, the Vandals, I believe.
Probably.
No, I believe it.
So first character I want to talk about is this guy Flavius Aetius.
He loves flavors.
When he was a kid, he's from the Western Empire. When he was a kid, he was used as a hostage, and this is a system of diplomacy that the Romans had set up, where they would send like nobility, young nobility, to live among the barbarians
Okay.
in exchange for like barbarian princes to come live with them, as like a good faith thing.
Right.
Like we're not going to kill each other. We're taking care of
Exchange
each other.
students.
Yes.
Yeah. The
So
first exchange program.
He lives for a time with the Goths and then eventually with the Huns, and he ends up living in the same group as Attila, his brother Bleda, and their uncle. Oh God, I forgot his name. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But he ends up like having a really good relationship with them.
They're boys.
Yes.
With Attila.
Yes. And as he grows up, Aetius becomes like the top general in the Western Empire. And the Western Empire is very weak at this time. Like I said, they've been invaded by like German tribes. The empire is being held together on paper pretty much and not in reality.
I mean, paper is not very strong. It can't hold much together.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The final like 50 to 100 years of the empire, people will attribute to Aetius himself as like just by sheer force of will.
Just keeping it
He
together.
kept it alive.
Okay.
He's like doing crisis control his entire life, essentially. At one point, through like some backstabbing shit that he's doing, he's also incredibly ambitious and trying to like undermine the emperor. And
Yeah.
the emperor's a child, by the way. So
Okay.
his mother's in charge. And he's like he's like trying to take over the government.
Yeah, he's like, this is not good. I got to run the show.
So he gets on the wrong side of her and he loses a battle to like another Roman army.
Yeah.
And he's forced into exile and he goes to the Huns and gets them to help him come back and get his own. Like he invades Rome with a Hunnic army.
Yeah,
and
you guys need me.
Yes, and he gets his old job back as like the top guy. Anyway.
Using Huns.
Yes. Meanwhile, in the Eastern Empire, which is much stronger than the Western Empire, it's doing a lot better. The Huns are sitting, they're not really doing much. They just kind of sit and be menacing just north of the Danube
Local
frontier.
things, right? Like, yeah.
They'll like raid occasionally, but it's more like the fear that they instill that's really what driving the fact that the Eastern Empire is sending wagon loads of 700 gold a year in tribute to the Huns.
What are they so scared of?
Invasion.
But
the Huns are the premier military power in Europe at this time. No doubt about it. They can outfight anybody.
And the Romans are like, we just got to pay these guys off.
They're paying off the Huns to not attack them.
Okay.
They do this, for years. Eventually, Attila's uncle, who was like their leader, dies. And this leaves Attila and his brother in charge. They decide, the kind of dynastic crisis this creates, the Romans think now's a good time to stop paying.
Now's the time.
Yes. So Attila and his brother are like, okay, you want to cut off the tap? Now we're going to invade you. So they go down into the Eastern Empire and they sack city after city after city. And the Romans have dealt with this type of thing before from, barbarian invasions. But it's a very much weaker Rome than that had been around in the past. And
they're not the big boys.
The
on
Huns, unlike the rest of the Germanics that they've been dealing with for centuries, are really good at sieges.
They have insane military tactics.
Right. They can take over. They can breach walls. Whereas in the old days, if the Goths came and besieged your city, you get all the people and the food and anything you can grab and get it behind the walls. And, they'll fuck around, they'll burn things for a while and eventually go home.
And you'll be fine.
And you'll be all right. The Huns, way better. So the Romans send out an army to this is all Eastern Empire. They send out an army to fight Attila and he annihilates it. There's nothing left. The road to Constantinople is open. Now, Constantinople has these walls, the Theodosian walls. This is probably the second most famous fortification ever.
I have
made.
heard of the Theodosian walls.
Yeah. Other than like the Great Wall of China, these are like the most famous walls in history, I think.
Walls of Jericho?
Good wall.
No, there's another one.
Yeah. You take those down with a trumpet, I believe.
Now,
right?
the Theodosian walls they're actually like two sets of walls.
Okay.
So you've got the smaller wall in the front.
Real quick, we're talking about walls.
Yeah.
How do we not bring up the Berlin Wall? I mean.
Oh, yeah, that's another
Yeah.
one. Yeah, that's a shitty wall.
Yeah, it fell apart pretty quick.
That's more of a fence.
Kind of just hop over it, really.
But this wall, it's got, an outer wall, then like a open ground where people on
Like
the
a
inner
killing
wall
zone.
now you're in a killing zone. It's got like spikes and shit. And then you've got the main big wall on the inner wall, right?
Yeah.
This
It's
is for real. But the road, like I said, the road is open to Constantinople. And just at that moment, as fate would have it, a gigantic earthquake hits Constantinople and creates giant holes in the Theodosian walls.
Oh no.
Damn.
And by some insane miracle, the people of Constantinople, motivated by fear and terror, essentially, managed to work around the clock and just in time for Attila to reach the
Build
city,
the wall.
rebuild the wall, and fix everything, like in miraculous time, right? So they save the city.
Okay.
The Huns can't break through. But they stick around for a while. They do some more damage. They take out 2 more Roman armies that get sent against them. The Eastern Empire is fucked.
They're done.
Yeah. But
Constantinople
the
remains.
Huns do not want to kill the goose that lays the golden egg. They're not there for territory. They're there for loot. So they cut a deal. They increase the annual indemnity to 1,400 pounds of gold a year, and they go home.
That's a lot of gold.
Yes. So now the Huns are happy. They're being,
Well
satiated.
paid.
Right. Now I'm going to switch over to the Western Empire,
Okay.
where Aetius is frantically trying to hold it together.
This is a Ravenna.
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 Yeah. So the Emperor Valentinian III, he's got a sister.
He's a saint, right?
No, I don't think so.
Saint Valentine.
Valentinian.
Valentinian III.
Close enough.
He's got a sister named Honoria.
She's annoying.
Honoria with an H.
Ah.
She's honorable, I guess. I don't
Yeah.
know. She's young. She's
Lethal.
Headstrong.
She'll take on anyone.
She wants some excitement in her life, and she is betrothed to a senator.
Sounds exciting.
Herculanus. He is dull and
He has
predictable,
a strong asshole.
and he's old.
Herculanus.
Yeah.
She does not want to marry Herculanus.
Who would?
So she writes a letter, and it says, "Dear Attila, come rescue me from this marriage." And she includes a signet ring with it. And
Like, this is
sends it
official.
out. Yep. Well, a ring.
Yeah.
Attila gets the message. He reads it, and he says, "I accept your proposal for marriage."
Yeah.
Now,
That's what it seems
whether
like.
if that's what she meant or not, he's decided,
I'm in.
I'm in.
Yeah.
And he
Sounds
sends back a
fun.
message saying, "I require half of the empire as a dowry." Now everybody's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. What did you do?
Yeah.
Is this the first awful? This is like a treachery on the level of Eve. Like, think of what this woman did.
She was
She
bored.
couldn't
bored.
just marry Herculanus. Instead, she had to destroy Rome by asking the barbarian to come destroy them.
So needless to say, the empire writes back, "Yeah, we're not doing that." So Attila now has to invade. And
Does he have to invade?
I think he just wanted
He
to.
wanted to, yeah.
Well, she gave him an
She
excuse.
gave him a pretext. Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
So you'd think like if he was serious about marrying her, he would have went straight for Italy, but he doesn't. He goes to Gaul. He crosses the Rhine and starts sacking towns
in France.
in Gaul. Yeah. He actually, there's an interesting story. When he gets to Paris, the people of Paris go out in front of the city, and they're led by this woman, Geneviève. Yeah. And they pray. And for whatever reason, he doesn't kill them.
Is he Christian?
No.
Okay. What is he?
Some pagan fucking
shit?
Eastern
Okay.
steppe shit. Tangrist religions.
Okay.
But
So he just doesn't kill them.
he doesn't kill them. And now Geneviève is now Saint Geneviève, the patron saint of Paris.
Okay.
He goes to Orleans,
Mm.
besieges the city. Aetius is fucked.
He's like, God damn it.
So he goes to the Goths and their king Theodoric.
Where are they?
They're in Gaul.
Okay, they're in.
They're like in Gaul and Spain, like
Okay.
in the West. and he begs them to join him in a last alliance against
The enemy of my
the
enemy.
Huns. So the Goths after some prodding, the Goths join up and the Franks join up, and they have this final coalition.
So who is it? It's the Goths?
The Romans, the Franks, the Goths, and anybody else who's in the area that wants to join up.
Basically, the entire Western.
Yes. This is. I honestly think
structure of
this is
Europe.
probably what Lord of the Rings was inspired by.
Oh, you think so?
The Last Alliance thing. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So they go to Orleans, and Attila.
Well, Attila can't be killed by a man.
He abandons the siege and moves to a place that he finds that will be a favorable battleground for them. The place he picks is called the Catalonian Plains.
Spain.
No,
Oh,
it's in Gaul.
because at Catalonia, I thought.
Yeah. But
Southern.
I
think.
I'm not sure. I'm sure you could look up where it is exactly. The Catalonian fields. They have one of the largest battles of antiquity. It's easily like, I mean,
most of the world.
Sources will tell you that like each side has 500,000 men on it, which is not possible. It's probably closer to like 2 or 3.
The Wikipedia
Yeah.
page doesn't even have casualties. It's like sources vary.
Yeah. But the sources tell us that they kind of had a race to the top of this hill, and the Allies will get to the top first and use the terrain to kind of hold against the Hunnic onslaught.
Yeah.
And Attila
They had the high ground.
is defeated.
Okay.
Now, his army is not destroyed, but he loses the battle decisively. The Roman, allied army takes a hit too. King Theodoric dies in the battle, so the Goths,
The Goths.
the
king.
Goths are now kingless. Attila now has to make his way out of Gaul back to the Hunnic lands. And he will be shadowed the entire time by Aetius' army, never really attacking him because he doesn't want to, because Attila's leaving.
Mhm.
So they don't want to risk the, resurgent Hun thing. They want to fuck this up.
Well, isn't his,
But what they will do is because the Huns kind of live off the land. They don't have these long supply lines. They just steal shit.
Yeah.
So they keep them from doing that. They won't like
arm's reach.
when raiding parties will go out to try and get food and shit. That's when they'll attack.
Mhm.
So they're forced to go home. So Attila goes home in the winter. I imagine he's probably stewing.
He's pissed.
He's pissed. Summer comes.
Does the other guys have to be celebrated?
Oh
right?
yeah, this is miraculous. No one's ever
Yeah.
been able. He's been invincible for years at this
Yeah.
point. He decides.
Do you think Herculanus's marriage continued?
I imagine that wasn't a happy house.
Yeah. Look what you did.
He might have just been a weak man. Like, hey, it's okay. I get it. You know.
I like to think he's your regular dude. He's just, put it on.
Attila, he goes home that winter and he's pissed. So come the summer, it's time to invade Italy.
It's raiding time.
It's raiding time. So they swoop through the eastern passes of the Alps and hit the city of Aquileia. Yeah, Aquileia. Aquileia was the famous fortress city in northern Italy that when barbarians would come and try to swoop in Italy.
That was the end.
It was the first line of defense.
Oh, okay.
It's long standed as this impenetrable Roman fortress.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like you're not getting past that.
Right.
It's done.
The Huns rip it apart brick by brick and leave it as nothing but a ruin. Like there's nothing left.
It's
when
done.
they're done. They burn, they smash and smash. There are a few survivors, and those survivors will run into the nearby marshes where there are some islands that they set up shop for the next 1,000 years and build the city called Venice.
Really?
Yes.
So this leads to Venice.
Yes.
Holy shit.
Attila moves on across northern Italy, sacking everything in his path. They destroy Milan, which was the last Roman capital before Ravenna. And he's ready to move south. Since the military is fucked and can't really fight him, The Senate and Emperor decide they'll do the next best thing. They'll try diplomacy, since nothing else has worked.
Yeah.
So
Do you want the girl?
they send
We still got her.
a retinue of senators, I imagine, with quite a bit of gold on them,
Yeah.
and the Bishop of Rome, Leo the First, who is the Pope.
Okay.
And they have a conversation with Attila, and somehow Leo convinces him to turn around and go home.
Stop.
This will immediately make the Pope into a superstar. This is the birth of the papacy, essentially.
It's like, holy shit.
Yes.
You saved.
When Rome falls,
Literally
this is
holy.
the authority.
Yeah.
You know? I think it was probably had more to do with the fact that
The gold.
after, well, yes, he was
Or
definitely
he failed
bribed.
before doing
Definitely
the same
bribed.
thing.
The Huns probably were so overladen with treasure that they
Yeah.
had to go home and make a deposit.
Okay.
Like there's no
Mhm.
point going south. Not to mention, northern Italy was going through a famine at the time, so
So
they were
what food are
probably
you gonna
looking
get?
hungry.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, we will spare the Italian peninsula and go home. So victorious Attila goes home, and he's hero of the day among the Huns.
They love him.
They love him. He is God. He gets a new wife and has a wedding party. And that night of his wedding, he starts drinking and drinking and drinking and dies.
He wasn't a homeless guy.
He
That was his
wasn't
problem.
homeless. He could have
He
took a page out of Mike's
Drinks
book.
himself to death. Probably like vomits in his sleep.
Do you think
One
he
of
was
those
poisoned
fucking-
by his wife?
I don't think so. I think he's just
Yeah.
fucking a barbarian.
I like to think an Italian like mafioso dude
I think
like
that
poisoned
was
his wife.
early-
Possible. They
early
were.
days.
They did try to
100%.
assassinate him. a couple
100%.
times.
That sounds poisoning.
And that is the end of Attila the Hun. Aetius, the great hero,
Yeah.
Valentinian, who
He
was
wasn't able to do anything about this other invasion.
no, the coalition was over.
Okay.
Valentinian, who is no longer a child, has people whispering in his ear that Aetius
Has to go.
is a problem. And one day, Aetius is giving a military report in the palace in front of the entire court. He turns around, and Valentinian himself walks up to him and just stabs him in the back.
In the back?
In the back, in front of everyone.
Jeez.
And that's the end of my story. Not long after this, the entire Western Empire
Well,
will
what?
collapse.
Yeah. So what? Why don't just finish the story? So what happens basically?
Oh, Valentinian's immediately discredited. He's removed. They have a series, like the dynasty's over.
Yeah.
Now you've got like rogue German generals that call themselves emperor for the next like 40, 50 years.
Okay.
And the city, Rome gets sacked again by the Vandals. The side story to all of this is that the Vandals, the Africa, right, is where Italy's food comes from Africa.
Okay.
Like the African provinces ship food.
Weed and stuff.
Yeah. And for, the last couple of 100 years, the Mediterranean has been completely in Roman hands. It's completely safe. The
Yeah.
Navy is out of practice. When the Vandals cross into Africa, they seize the entire region
Easily.
and decide that the next course of action is to build a fleet and become pirates. So they start invading these like little islands in the Mediterranean and just using them as pirate bases. So now all shipping is under attack at all times.
Mhm.
The empire can't live.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like once there's no one to come and collect the taxes. Eventually, they pull the legions out of Britain, so Britain just gets
Yeah.
abandoned.
They just leave it. Right?
Yeah. It's over. You can't call it an empire anymore after
Yeah.
a while. There's just independent kingdoms.
They just
Pockets,
slowly
yeah.
shrink down.
yeah. Now Gaul is the kingdom of the Franks.
Okay.
Italy is the kingdom of the Ostrogoths. Spain is the kingdom of the Visigoths. It's over.
Okay.
A lot of goths.
And
Yeah.
Rome is just a part of the Ostrogoths.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No hot topics.
No. And this Nero is there and it falls apart, right?
Nero.
What?
Nero's been dead for hundreds of years.
Oh yeah, because that's when it split the first time, right?
He was the last emperor of the Julio-Claudian
Okay.
dynasty. Justinian will try and get it all back.
Yeah.
This is the Byzantine period.
Yeah. This is when they become. That's in the Byzantine Empire. rise.
The Eastern Empire doesn't fall.
Yeah.
It stays intact and
They
it
become
becomes
the
the Byzantines. Eventually, Justinian is the last Latin-speaking emperor.
Okay.
After that, they switched to Greek, and they're kind of a different culture altogether.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why they're called Byzantine and not just the continuing Roman. They would have called themselves Romans until the day they would. The Theodosian walls that I talked about before
Yeah.
eventually get some holes put in them by the Ottomans with guns.
Yeah, the Muslims take it over.
They
right?
last long enough where cannons are needed to blow the
Okay.
fucking walls apart. Yeah.
It's a good run.
Sick.
1452, I believe.
Wow, what the story.
What
That's
a
epic.
story. That is an
Yeah.
epic one.
Yeah, they'll
You
never
weren't
do that in a
kidding.
movie.
It's too much.
I could that could have existed in like
The
2005, like a Rome series.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
like if Rome
series,
went like
yeah.
13 years. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
but,
But I didn't see us ever like covering that topic, so I thought, let me bang.
yeah,
this
I don't
one
think
out.
there's an Attila movie, right? Let me check.
Not a major one anyway. I think there's like there's probably TV shit.
Yeah, it wouldn't be surprising, but
Why
know.
isn't there? That would work.
I think you could do one. I think that's cool. There's a TV miniseries
Mm-hmm.
and a 1954 film.
Attila.
I mean, didn't they do like a
Anthony Quinn plays Attila
really?
with Sophia Loren.
Oh, this we gotta do this.
Yeah.
Oh.
Who plays Honoria? Sophia Loren. I bet she's
Maybe.
Honoria.
Let's say. Yup, she's Honoria.
shit? All right.
Yeah, Valentino Caesar's in there. Yeah, all right. Yeah, we got to do that.
Wow.
I think that would be the oldest film we'd have covered, not counting the special.
Probably, yeah.